Raptors Digest, what's up and welcome back. We have our second episode right now of the weekly segment, King of the North. I want to first and foremost thank you guys for all the positive comments you left, the constructive criticism. All of that's going to help me moving forward in terms of keeping the content going, but also refining our lists, our nominees for King of the North, all of that good stuff. So thank you guys. I love the community approach here. I really want to keep it rolling. I've already mentioned that Dortz vacated the crown for this week, but I should make him first among honorable mentions strictly because the very thing that got him the crown essentially relayed into this week. Not statistically necessarily, but he went up against the Spurs again, which last week he sunk them at the buzzer, really earning him the selection. This week he throws them right back in the torture chamber. The guy had 4 steals, he had 1 block, he had 15 points on 3 different three-pointers, and then he picks up the dub. So not enough to get him back-to-back King of the North of the week, but nonetheless very impressive and exciting. The next Canadian I'm going to talk about, although he wasn't in the running directly for King of the North this week, we still deserve a massive shout out to the guy that not many people know about, Michael Mulder. He just got selected to the Rising Stars game, which obviously he'll be representing Canada. Not happening this year due to COVID restrictions, really unfortunate, but the distinction alone means a ton to a young player like him. He's just starting to crack that Golden State lineup due to their unfortunate injuries, so he's getting some playing time. We're starting to see what he's about. He's shooting 40% from 3, north of that mark, which is an awesome sign. Hopefully the Splash Brothers are rubbing off on him a little bit, but his defensive numbers, his usage numbers, they aren't elite, and I don't think they ever will be elite necessarily, but I'm hoping to see a solid role player come out of Mulder, and the more and more I see of him, the more and more I like. Let's hope development is a consistent here. Before I get to the main contenders for King of the North this week, I wanted to shout out a few other individual performances by Canadians who maybe didn't have the craziest week, but still presented some really big notables. Chris Boucher, 30 points, a career high against Boston. He really showed out for a short-handed Raptors team. Whenever this kid shoots the ball, I mean, it looks crazy, but it's always confident, and you never want to tell him to stop. So cheers, Chris, good job. And then Kelly Olynyk down in Miami almost picks up a triple-double, gets 18 points, the win over the Pelicans, who have their own Canadian, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, chip in 13 of his own. So just all around good stuff. You love to see it. Lastly, my next honorable mention, it really brings me nothing other than pain to snub this guy off of the list today, but RJ Barrett, unfortunately, he will not be the King of the North. We can call him the Prince of the North maybe, because that's really what he is. You got to check out the stats. I'll put them up on the screen from his past few games. He is balling out. He's shooting the ball efficiently, which ironically was really the biggest knock on RJ. People saw the threes he would jack up in college, the fact he was a lefty. There was a lot of questions about consistency and translating to the NBA, but thankfully in his second year, he's putting a lot of those talks to rest. He looks awesome, and the Knicks are winning. Like I said, they're at a 19-18 record. We'll see if they can make something special happen here. Obviously, their big winning contending days are down the road, but great stuff from RJ. They got to be thrilled with him. Now, without further ado, the guy that I snubbed last week, I simply cannot ignore him any longer. He must have seen the video because he is playing out of his skull. Jamal Murray is the King of the North this week. Well, to start off, we can just look at what he's averaging over the past 10 games. He is shooting 57% from the field, above 50 from 3, above 90 from the free throw line, and he's dropping close to 30 points a game. So we are playing with fire here. He is Bubble Murray in the fullest. I think we even need to shake that nickname. He's just full-blown King of the North because he is playing at a level right now which is the best in the league. They are 4-0 on a road trip that Denver just took, so clearly he's taking them to that level of winning against other good teams. It is wild what Murray's doing. I cannot wait to see this guy put on a Canada jersey on the international stage. With all this offensive game, it would be super easy to just focus on that and overlook the other things that Jamal Murray does. But in his words on Twitter this past week, yes, I play defense too. And that is the truth. The numbers support it. Over the past 10 games, he's averaging 1.4 steals along with half of a block. That's not so far from his regular stats. Obviously, he's on a heater, but in terms of point guard defense, he gives you a lot. Obviously long, obviously athletic. And when he puts his mind to the task, like he's doing right now, it shows. And I really think that if this continues, he could make an all-defensive team in the NBA this year. Jamal is definitely one of the most hyped up and publicized Canadian players in the league, so for the most part, a lot of us already know a bit about his background, but for those who don't, he's from Kitchener, Ontario, which is just an hour out of Toronto. He's currently 24 years old, and coming up through the ranks, he was always a pretty active member of Canada basketball, so I envision that being a priority for him in the future, which is exciting. Furthermore, he went to Orangeville Prep, played high school basketball there before going to Kentucky and playing for John Calipari. And something that's definitely overlooked, and I've heard John Calipari talk about it in interviews, he's like, hey, Jamal Murray is the only guy, out of Anthony Davis, John Wall, a bunch of different greats to come through Kentucky, he is the only guy to average above 20 points per game in college. So He's been a gifted scorer. We've been sleeping on him, but that's okay because I'm giving Jamal the credit he deserves right now by crowning him King of the North this week. So congrats, Jamal. Definitely earned it. Thrilled for you. And for everyone who's thinking right now, oh, Shay's the better guy, he better be moving up in the power rankings ahead of Jamal. I've been seeing a ton of those comments. I hear you. I love Shay. I'm not bashing him at all, but strictly looking at the past sample size of, let's give it 4 weeks, he has not been as good as Jamal Murray, but that's okay because nobody has. Jamal Murray has been playing out of his mind. He's winning. I know you can make arguments too that OKC doesn't have the same supporting cast to help him open up the floor, which is true. I understand that. You can make the same argument about RJ, but when you're shooting 50% from three, 90 from the free throw line, and then above 50 considerably just from the field goal percentage in general, I don't really understand how you would dethrone that man for really anyone at this point. And remember guys, these are power rankings, so I'm evaluating a broader criteria than just individual box scores or overall season averages. I'm really interested in who I would rather have on my team at that moment. So that's the criteria. Even if it was a stats competition solely, we would see Jamal Murray run away with it this week. He is undeniably the King of the North, but I'll get to some more mobility that we've had in the power rankings this week that's been influenced by fans, myself, performances. I got that coming right now. First and foremost, I should just acknowledge a mistake I made last video. It was my first post, and of course, I've left Lou Dort out of the Canadian Power Rankings by accident. So I was bound to make one mistake. Someone pointed it out in the comments. My bad on that. He was certainly supposed to be in there, and I've made sure that for this week, he is, and I've adjusted a lot of different positions for guys, so I'll continue to break it down and let me know what you think. Out of all the comments, it would appear the consensus is that I need to temper my love for Dillon Brooks. I still stand by saying that Brooks is probably a guy I would rather have than RJ Barrett, than Lou Dort, than even Wiggins. So that is really how highly I think of him, genuinely. But until he starts putting up crazy week-to-week stat lines, I can't keep him in that third spot. There are simply too many good Canadians, so I appreciate the fans commenting about that. I've made that change. And additionally, Chris Boucher, that 30-piece helped him move up the ranks this week as well. But we also, if we're doing a true power rankings, we need to consider defense heavily. So Chris, one of the wackiest Canadian prospects we've seen, he comes out of nowhere, gets an unprecedented amount of blocks for his size, for his experience. He is just a force on both ends. Some nights he can take over a game. So these are the guys that I've chosen to move around. Those are the reasons why. You comment down below and let me know what you think. We are now at the conclusion of episode 2. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, getting involved beforehand on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. All of that helps to create a really representative opinion of Canadian fans on our players. And that ultimately is what I want out of this segment, in addition to giving individuals a really good spotlight. So thank you for helping me make this happen. I should mention before I depart just that when I didn't put in Lou Dort, being a really rookie mistake on my part, I had to go put him in later, shoving out Dwight Powell at the bottom of the list. If Dwight Powell comes back and plays great, I will give him that credit and toss him back on, but just letting you guys know, the reason he is off that list is because I had to add back in Dort because of my own dumb mistake. But these videos are going to keep getting better and better. This list is going to get more and more stacked, so I thank you guys tons and enjoy All-Star Weekend.